And Investor Insights this week, we're taking a look at some interesting developments from the South African Reserve Bank alongside our preferred picks to update on our wall. Nicolette's not joining us this week and she's got a very busy Women's Month. So we start with the SARB. The SARB went on a very interesting fact-finding mission, right? They went after a lady by the name of Berdine Odendaal, who was said to be the mistress of the late Marcus Jooste. They went after 60 million rand of her assets. They froze those assets, saying that it was a breach of exchange control. I covered the story at length on radio. I even tried to speak to the Reserve Bank themselves, and the Reserve Bank wouldn't give commentary. They won that. They were allowed to seize those funds. Those funds were paid over to Treasury. But the more interesting thing that we saw from that was it set a legal precedent.
Yeah.
And that legal precedent has since seen the SARB go after 6 billion rand of Steinhoff's money. And just this week, so there's a particular page where the government gazettes are published. And I just keep an eye on it once a week, every now and then. I keep refreshing the page. And you actually get the gazettes that are published because it's part of the regulatory and legal requirements that these things are shared with us. And the latest round, this week alone, around 30 million rand was seized yesterday from 3 separate businesses. It's an ongoing thing. So the SARB is effectively now using this legal precedent that they have to be able to come after anyone that they feel has breached exchange control regulations without having a conviction against them or having any form of case won against that individual. So if the SARB believes you've breached exchange control, they can freeze and seize the money. And that is an extremely interesting dynamic for international businesses.
And I mean, and you could take SARB to court. I mean, of course you can. You always have that. But I mean, and we've seen. So to your point, and the key thing is they got that legal precedent. As far as they're concerned, they've got the law on their side. And until such time as a judge, and probably ultimately maybe the Concourt says you don't, they do have the law on their side. And they are then just doing it. I mean, we've seen it with SARS, the whole coronation thing, which ultimately they lost. If they'd won that, there were 100 other companies out there that knock on the door who were doing the same thing. So they're trying to set that precedent. And then once they've got it, they flex it, they use it. It's not like, it wasn't about Berdine Odendaal. It wasn't the story. That 60 million.
That 60 million meant nothing.
It was nothing. It's the precedent that they've now got. They've got a legal precedent, and they now just go in and attach. And I see it, but I mean, it was 5 and 2 days. I mean, I've never heard of any of the companies that were getting attached.
Of course.
But 5 and 2 days. Bang.
And there's no real limit. There's no real, because it's such a general precedent. The only real thing that is said about it is, does the SARB feel you have breached exchange control regulation? I think the one they usually reference is Regulation 22B in terms of the Exchange Control Act. If the Reserve Bank and the Prudential Cluster feel that you have breached this particular piece of legislation, they are empowered to seize the funds that are in an international bank account. Now,
and these are
not in an international bank account. They're entitled to seize any funds that they believe are in breach of that exchange control, regardless of where those funds may be sitting. But I suppose they'd be sitting in South Africa. They'd either be sitting in a global type of account or a domestic account, either in rands or in a foreign currency. But SARB is not restricted.
Yeah, and so in this case, I'm looking at the 3 that came out yesterday, all with first rand, $700,000, $670,000, $350,000. These aren't
works out to 31 point something million rand. I did the calculation yesterday at 18 rand. So it's not small amounts.
Yeah, look,
but the Steinhoff thing was a clear situation there, and I almost felt that perhaps the situation with Berdine Odendaal was a build up or this is our test case. Test case survives, wins, cool. Now we can go after the 6 billion. And now as Steinhoff, that went through that entire raise exercise with the Pepcore holdings and putting new shares into the market and all of that, raising 6 billion. Now you still hold a significant portion of that, but are you going to do it again? Because if you do it again, there's nothing to stop the SARB from coming back and saying, we're going to seize those funds too.
Now, I just wonder why SARB doesn't just take the shares. Why do they want cash? Why not assets?
Because cash is easier. If I have to have assets,
point.
I have to go and liquidate. Cash.
And Ibex, which is the new Steinhoff, is situated in Amsterdam.
Precisely, which could take forever. So the moment
much easier when you just phone FNB and say, yo, got an account
put
number
a freeze. That's it. There's the account number, put a freeze on it. Yeah. And when you then... So the other side of the interesting conversation here is to say once the funds are frozen, they are then forfeited onto National Treasury.
Yes.
Which is now a new income stream for National Treasury beyond just tax collection, is whatever money is in a bank account. If that bank account is under investigation, under suspicion, and that money gets handed over to National Treasury, for you to get it back is going to be, we don't even know if anyone, I mean, Berdine Odendaal did attempt to go that route and try to...
You can phone lawyers, but it's going to be, expensive. And, you basically got to either take it to the Concourt and hope that you win, and you're not even sure they will hear it, never mind that you will win it, and it's going to cost you arms and legs.
It's a very interesting time. It's a very interesting dynamic, and I think it's going under the radar a lot because it's not involving big companies necessarily at the moment.
Fair point. I mean, companies that we just never heard of. I mean, is it bad? I mean, if you are in breach and there is precedent, well, boom, you lose your monies.
No. So look, from a regulatory standpoint, if you have been found to have broken the law, then there's nothing anyone can do for you, right? So I think for me, when I looked at this initially, it was around trying to understand the specific provisions of the regulation, trying to understand how you are determined to be in breach of said regulation. When you read the legislation, it says what it says about exchange control and all of that. And what did you breach? I think we don't have that clarity.
And there's also, instead of SARB freezing the money, taking you to court and using this as your precedent,
they don't need to.
They just say we don't need to, and that is perhaps
that is the question.
That is the question, because now SARB is both judge and jury.
And executioner, because
and in this case, executioner.
They will then take
that
the funds.
Perhaps is the slightly messy part.
That's it. So I wonder how this is going to unfold and how this is going to continue to play out, especially in the realm of private businesses, because a lot of these businesses I'm seeing from this list, you go to the CIPC or whatever, they appear to be private entities, right? So if there's a public interest in a business and there's a public score on that business, that I can understand. You're doing that in the interest of public, you know? If it's a private business, then every private business ever created in South Africa is susceptible to this as long as you've done an international transaction at some point.
Well, and probably individuals too, right?
That's the thing.
Why are individuals exempt?
Well, the principal case involves an individual.
Yeah.
Then the subsequent case involved a company. So yes, effectively what it means is if you've done an international transaction and at any point in that international transaction, the Reserve Bank of South Africa feels that you've breached exchange control, they can seize money. Let's do some picks. Let's update our wall. I think we've got a couple of things on the wall at the moment. I want to just go through... we've spoken about some of them, and I want to let's go through additions before we go through maybe some adjustments on what is on our wall. How are we feeling about DRD Gold? Let's start there.
So Mishima 2 weeks ago, and we never got to because we ran out of time, her fave gold stock is DRD. I forget why. I can't even remember what their all-in sustained cost is, but make no bones about it. The gold's 2,500. Lots of compelling reason why it continues to go higher. And these little gold miners, as we've just discussed before, and their headline earnings is only going to be up between -1% and 9%. There must be some oddities in that. That was but the gold stocks. I mean, pick yourself a gold stock. DRD is the one that's kind of the lagger, perhaps. If you look at in terms of chart, we've got Anglo Gold Ashanti almost at highs, Harmony almost at highs, or the Harmony House from 20 years ago. Goldfields well at highs.
I'm going to throw in a spanner in the works because we now have that little segment on our wall where we can look at alternatives to a particular pick. And I know you like Pan-African resources. Yeah, so Pan-African, because they can do it much cheaper.
My picks are Pan and Anglo Gold Ashanti. Pan, the little one, trading all-time highs. Is it an all-time high?
It is all-time highs.
Yeah.
It's just shy of R7.
Yeah, just shy of R7. Yeah. I mean, they are masters at eking gold out of the ground at ridiculously low costs. AngloGold Ashanti do it at a markedly higher price, but do it at a markedly larger amount.
Scale, yes.
They do it at the scale.
Yes.
And that's the story. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm picking a gold counter, my picks are Pan and Anglo Gold.
Not DRD.
No.
Interesting. But I suppose this is why we have the alternatives out there. Is sometimes there's a better pick out there that might make a little more sense.
And Mishima Gama, who's way smarter than either of us with the chart in hand, says we were both wrong. Northern Platinum went through an update this week. We got that update. Very interesting kind of outlook. I know from a PGM perspective, there's very little these guys can do if price stays where it stays. Average pricing hasn't been the greatest. And Mushima mentioned this as well. We've looked at this as well. Until the platinum price gets to a certain point, the PGM guys kind of struggle along. But the good news is they've kind of scraped the bottom of the lowest stocks can get. How are we feeling about Northern? I don't like platinum stocks. What's interesting is they've all gone big on chrome. And chrome is your greenest metal in the sense in that it's infinitely recyclable. Well, not chrome, not infinitely, stainless steel, which is what chrome is used for. I chatted with Bruce Williamson from Integral a couple of weeks ago. He's a mining expert. And he was talking, he likes Northam because of their chrome exposure. Because what's happened is they're selling it into China. And there's nuances in chrome in terms of purity and the like. So a lot of the furnaces in China are now set up for South African chrome from Teresa or Jubilee or whoever the case may be. And what we see in some of these mines, if we go back 20 plus years, I suspect there was almost a gentleman's agreement where they would pull chrome out of the ground, but there was a chrome miner, was it Samcor or something like that, I forget, and they would just leave it in tailings. So basically, they're just mining tailings. But you know what, I buy Northern because they've got chrome? No. The PGMs are in an existential crisis. We need PGM prices to improve. They're not. And until they do, I would sit on the sides.
Let's look at international stocks. Crowdstrike,
yes.
They went through the most. I remember the share price coming down to about 200. I think I liked it at 200.
Exactly 200.
Yeah, I liked it at 200, and we're back at 260-ish, if I remember correctly from last. 262, 263-ish pre-market. You liking it back up to 300-ish? Has it got enough legs in it there?
I think even more. I mean, ultimately, if you look at so the disaster which befell them just recently was a totally epic disaster. There is a class action lawsuit from shareholders to which I plan to I'm trying to get onto it because I'm a shareholder. American lawyers don't answer my emails anyway. And are there going to be lawsuits from the likes of Delta and others who, I imagine the T's and C's are pretty tight, but just the way that they do it, they've got this thing called Falcon and they've got little modules and you can pick and choose your modules. Changing is not easy. I know that folks are going to now look a little squiffer at Crowdstrike, and I know that, as Wayne McCurry always says, markets have memories, but I think we will move on from it in time. And this might be one of those famous Hail Marys. But I like the business. And you know what? I mean, I bought some at 380, right, before the disaster. So I've been buying them from around 160, and my most recent purchase was 380. So if I like them at 380, 260?
Definitely like them. Okay. Yeah. Last one for the updates, or for the new additions, Nvidia.
So Nvidia results coming out on the 28th. They probably going to knock it out the park, although there has been some supply chain constraints. And we can see that from the people who are buying their chips, who've been even the older ones, the H100s, the new Grace Hopper, Blackwells, etc. They've had dates pushed out, which means that there's been a bit of a supply chain hiccup. But the short version is that nobody is even close to what they're producing at this point in time. Now, we had Alphabet say a couple of weeks ago, it's like, we're spending a lot here and we don't know what the revenue is. It's a build it, they will come, hopefully type of thing. But at this point in time, I mean, this is a stock that is eye-wateringly expensive on every metric. But if you think AI is going to be around in 10 years, they're going to make a truckload of money over those 10 years.
First mover advantage, I suppose.
First mover. And they're so far ahead. And it's small things like they have their own software. So you can have a bunch of the I don't know if it's the Grasshopper or the Blackwells or whatever. And they've got software that basically merges it so that the system sees it as one, all of that sort of thing. And that software is bespoke. It's proprietary. So you're an expert on the Grasshopper or the H100 or something. The new chip comes along. It's going to be slower. It's going to be more expensive. It's going to be less efficient. And you've got to learn a new programming language. Their biggest problem is their success. I mean, that's their challenge, right? They can't fulfill the orders, which means that there are some engineers out there who are saying, well, what are the alternatives?
And you look at Intel as an alternative, you look at AMD as an alternative. Are they batting in the same league?
They're trying, but they're not in the same league.
So we're definitely liking Nvidia at the moment. We're definitely seeing some value there.
And I hold both, so I'm talking my book.
It's got a place on our wall. Okay. I want to have a look at some of the other guys. We have to move some of these guys down. I see we've got, we had BAT, we had Nike, we had Growth Point, we had Pepcore. They're all in our load up kind of area with Pick and Pay, with Impact, with the S&P, with Alphabet, with BlackRock, with ShopRite. And for me, it's really difficult to want to move any of them out of here. They're still good stocks.
Growth Point's just broken higher. Pepcore.
Pepcore's running.
Pepcore's suddenly running. I mean, even ShopRite.
ShopRite is top 300. Is back above 300.
It's back above 300. I mean,
and results conversation is coming up on the 3rd of September, official results. We got that 53-week update, but official results will be out around the 3rd of September.
I'm on leave that week, which is sad.
It's okay. I've got a conversation with the CEO. We'll definitely cover
I got
things.
upgraded to an invite to a conversation with the CEO.
There you go. But you're on leave. Okay, so our load up area kind of looks like it's staying the way it is. We buy cars we still have as neutral. Do we want to move that with the adjustments that come with transaction capital and nut and credit, or do we want to see something more?
That doesn't
affect We Buy Cars at all.
We Buy Cars, but again, it's breaking higher. On the weekly chart, this is a good-looking chart. I mean, it. You know, the only one that, I keep on going back to Zeta, the car, not the agri, and that's like a boring chart. But like everything else that I pull up is just breaking higher.
Quantum Foods. We've got that not in the best place on our charts.
Yeah, Quantum Foods is in a void.
Okay, let it stay in the void.
Yeah. It's done at 852. Last time we said avoid, it was 11. Time before it was 13. Keep on avoiding.
And with that, it's the end of the show. Until next time, investing isn't hard. Just try it.